First of all, I asked you to have 3 problems done, so I'm going to quickly show the answers to those 3 problems. Here's the first one that I had you do, the p squared minus 5p minus 24. And then here are the other 2 things I want to point out here. Most people, if they miss something, either it was missing a sign here or there, or it was this first term where we took the 2x times the 3x. Keep in mind, 2x times 3x, 2 times 3 is 6, multiply the numbers, multiply the variables, x times x here is x squared. So some people were missing the squared term there. Make sure that you have multiplied both the numbers and the variables. I can multiply in any order, and I'm choosing to multiply it as 2 times 3 times x, which is 2 times 3 is 6, x times x is x squared. And I want to remind you, because it's going to come in handy tomorrow, I want to remind you that this middle term came from adding, and the terms on the end came from multiplying. The term in the middle came from combining together a negative 6x and a negative 3x to make a negative 9x. So it came from adding. So before we go on to the next couple problems, any questions on those 3? Okay. I want to show this to you. It's over on the back. I want to show this to you so that you have seen it before, because a lot of people teach it this way. So I want to make sure you've seen it before, or it might jog your memory as to how these work. I tend to generally not like memory tricks, with like one exception this year, because this is just distributing. And that's the way I'm always going to talk about it, is distributing. But there is an acronym, a mnemonic device to remember it, which is FOIL. I just wanted, if that rings a bell to you, that might be helpful. If you see it later on in another class from another teacher, that's what this is. It stands for first, outside, inside, last, which is what the distributing does. It distributes the x to the x plus 2, so that's the first term and the outside term. And then we distribute the 1 to the x plus 2, the inside and the last. So I'll do one more example where I point it out this way. So we're going to start by distributing our m. I'm going to go much quicker today because people seem generally solid on these. So we're going to distribute our m. We have m times m is m squared. Right? M times m is going to be m squared. Talked about that yesterday. We have m times a negative 7 is a negative 7m. So that's our first and our outside. Then we're going to distribute our, we're not distributing a 3, we're distributing a negative 3. Careful on that. So we're distributing a negative 3. Negative 3 times m is negative 3m. Then we have negative 3 times a negative 7. Negative times a negative is a positive 21. So m squared doesn't go with anything, it's still m squared. Positive 21 doesn't go with anything, it's still positive 21. Notice that those came from multiplying the m times m and the negative 3 times the negative 7. Notice that this middle term is going to come from negative 7m minus 3m, which is negative 10m. Take a negative 7 and subtract it, gets more negative. So again, notice that that came from adding this negative 7m and the negative 3m. Because again, tomorrow we're going to start looking at, I'm going to give you this thing and ask you to come up with the fact that this is m minus 3 times m minus 7. That's where we're headed with this tomorrow. All right, I want to do one more because this one looks different. It looks harder, but it's not any different than the ones we've been looking at. And I just want to point that out. This is the only one of these we're going to do, and you're going to get like a homework problem on it. But otherwise, it's not going to be any different. I just want to point out that this same process of distributing, it doesn't change just because I add more terms to it. We're still going to get this, multiply this out, and simplify it the exact same way that we just did with distributing. So I'm going to start by distributing the x. The only difference is that I'm distributing the x to 3 different terms instead of 2. That would be the only difference. So we have an x times an x squared. Remember, x squared is x times x. So what we have here is x times x squared is x times x times x. So we got 3 of them that we're multiplying, which means we're going to put an x cubed, x to the 3rd, because there's 3 x's getting multiplied together there. Then we're going to keep distributing. We're going to take x times a negative 3x. So we have the negative 3 as our number. In our variables, we have an x times x, which is x squared. We're going to keep distributing. We have x times negative 2. So number-wise, we have a negative 2. Variable-wise, we have x. So there's distributing the x. We distributed the x across 3 different terms. So we took these 3 terms, we chalked on another x on top of it. So now we're going to distribute the 5. We're going to distribute the 5. Positive 5. Make sure the sign goes with it, but it's just positive. So positive 5 times x squared. Well, that'll just be a positive 5x squared. Positive 5 times a negative 3x is going to give me a negative. 5 times 3 is 15, and we just have one of the x's. And then positive 5 times a negative 2, positive times a negative is a negative. 5 times 2 is 10. So the only thing that changes here is now when I look at what can be combined together, there are more things that can get combined together. X cubed. Do we have any other x cubed things happening? Nope. So x cubed stays x cubed. Minus 10. Do we have any other minus, just a number things happening? Nope. So that's going to be a minus 10. However, there are some other terms that we can put together. We've got a negative 3x squared. We have a positive 5x squared. So I could combine those together, same way I can combine x terms together. We have negative 3 plus 5 is going to be positive, is going to outweigh the negative. And we're going to have a 2x squared. That comes from adding. So once again, our middle terms are going to come from adding. Then we have a negative 2x here and a negative 15x here. Negative 2x minus 15x gets more negative and becomes a negative 17x. So we can combine some more terms together. Here's our final answer. But notice that the way that we multiplied everything out is the same way that we've been multiplying everything out on all the other problems. So you're going to have an online assignment that's going to give you some more practice with this coming up here.